restrictions, at least that everyone has to kind of follow. But like states, I think this is kind of my ideal world. That's never going to happen, but like I think states should be able to, if they want to do more restrictions on guns, they can. But also, if they don't want to do more restrictions on guns, I think that would be a little bit more like ideal for them, because it is really a cultural thing that a lot of people from where I'm from just don't get how you could want to have a gun. A lot of people from like Texas could get like how you can like not have a gun. Like it's such an incredible difference.
And I agree. It's just I think, and the more familiar people are with weapons, when you read in the news that guns are just always killing people, you think that's all guns do. But if you live 45 minutes from the nearest police station, you'd be long dead before a police officer showed up to chase the bad people away from your house, right?
Yeah, there is definitely a need for self-defense.
It's exactly, and I think that person who lives in that situation has a much different view of that weapon than someone who can just dial 911 in New York City.
Yeah,
and within, especially if you report a violent act, they're there in minutes.
Yeah,
so it's a different. There should be better middle ground. There clearly is when you look at polls, but politicians aren't subject to the will of the people all the time. They're subject to the will of the donor class.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is too true. Speaking of dangerous weapons, the one Trump is considering levying against Mexico is looking pretty interesting at this point. We got trade tensions with China. They flared last year. Many companies sought kind of a refuge in a country with a long, stable relationship with the United States, which is Mexico. They thought, since China is kind of under threat, Mexico can be kind of our new China, like put our factories in. Now, that alternative for production of materials may also be in jeopardy with President Trump's threat now to impose escalating tariffs on imports from Mexico, which is aimed at forcing action on illegal immigration with the new president there, called AMLO. This is his initials. His name is very long. Yeah. Yeah. In short term, though, the tariffs would mean lower profit for American importers and higher prices for American consumers on everything from avocados to Volkswagens. But in the long run, they could force companies to reconsider the continent-spanning supply chains that have made North America one of the world's most interconnected economies. That disruption could be far more damaging to the United States economy than the cost of the tariffs themselves. The kind of need for restructuring and the volatility that's happening could be very damaging to the economy. To the way, companies may have to really change the way they do things with this threat now to Mexico. I don't know this, but I'm assuming the stock markets were not very happy with this yesterday. What?
No.
Yeah. What was your reaction to this news?
It's a mixed reaction. It really is. I mean, I understand why. It's very simple to see why the president would intimate something like this. He's working against so many forces. They're just embedded against immigration reform. He's going to use whatever tools he has at his disposal to stem what he considers a dangerous flow. And if you look at the numbers of people who are crossing the border illegally, it's hard to say that it's not a bit of an emergency.
Yeah, it's coming at so faster than really it ever has with the chaos that's going on in Latin America.
Exactly. So it's difficult for me to see how people on the far left still won't use the word emergency. But be that as it may, he's given them 10 days. And did you notice that the minute he did it, the Mexican government launched a crew of people to Washington to try to fix the problem? So he's gotten someone's attention.
Yeah, that's definitely a big deal because they definitely have been kind of struggling under Peña Nieto. I'm pretty sure it was like a big, if I remember correctly, it was like a big corruption scandal there. And this is, that's definitely going to be kind of a blow to them. But like, what would you say they should do in order? Like, how could they stop this kind of migrant flow? Like,
well, Mexico has a much smaller southern border than our southern border. It's something like 180 miles long. I mean, they could clearly do more to stop the inflow into Mexico. And then the fact is, once, there are basic rules on everyone's books. Asylum, if you're claiming asylum, you should be claiming it in the first safe country. But Mexico is allowing migrants to walk the entire length of Mexico to our southern border, to be willingly caught now by immigration officers because it's easier than trying to sneak in. And as long as you utter the magic words about asylum, you're afforded a very lengthy process during which you can disappear into the country. So because of all this, because no one's willing to do anything about all of those intermediate steps, right? He's just gone right to Mexico, said, listen, we're going to hurt you economically. Yes, we will hurt economically as well, but this will hurt you worse. You got to start solving some of these problems. There's no way that this can be the status quo. And I understand that. And I think even people on the left understand that. Hence the massive silence you see in the mainstream media about the influx of these migrants. Do I think there's a great financial outcome to this? No, of course not. That's sort of logical and obvious. But
kind of like a necessary evil.
In a sense, I mean, you use every weapon at your disposal to change whatever it is you perceive as a threat. I think, honestly, our economy is so good that it shouldn't be judged simply on the stock market. I think we can weather this easily. Consumers are, we're employing people at a phenomenal rate. Our economy is fabulous. It's more than just the market.
Yeah, it definitely is more than just the market. Like, we've seen kind of the wages are maybe going up and down a little bit, but not really. But yeah, it's definitely a strong economy at this point. But with the way, with the way things that have happened, especially with some of the policies that like Trump did, that Bush, Reagan, even back going to the Great Depression. Like, I'm talking about the tax cuts here. I'm just really skeptical that tax cuts are going to lead the economy to long-term prosperity, like tax cuts for the rich that really took place under this Trump tax taxes like businesses and stuff like that. I don't know that's going to work.
I think that's a talking point. There were tax cuts for the rich. I mean, there were tax cuts for everybody. There were tax cuts for the middle class. It's just that the amount of money that an average middle class family gets, it just in the dollar amount pales in comparison to what a wealthy person gets simply on a relative scale. So, and by the way, wealthy people employ people. Wealthy people invest in companies that employ people. That's the whole idea of markets. You risk money to make money. And if those companies are creating wealth that employs people, which clearly we're at a historic low unemployment. It must be working to some degree. It can't just be all blind luck, although I think a lot of people would like to imagine it's blind luck and that our orange-haired meanie president is still, he has no idea what he's doing. He's just blundering through it all. I think he's a little more sensible than that.
Yeah, well, we definitely have
we
our disagreements on that, but yeah, I mean, I do think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out overall. But we definitely do, like, there's no denying, like, our economy is definitely not bad right now. I'm definitely going to say that. And it's going to be interesting to see how, if he could really improve it with China in the trade war. But, like, my personal thought, like, with the immigration is, like, the way I think it would be really effective is to kind of stop the pull, like, the pull factors, like what is getting them to, or the stuff that's pushing them out of the country, like the reason why they're, like, leaving. And I think that's something that really we have a large kind of we're not obviously also playing for this, but, like, we are influenced in there, like, in pretty much the entire 19th century, from, like, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Like, we've had some pretty bad influences there that created power vacuums, that created a lot of chaos and, like, violence for these people, all because we didn't want to see communists, like, come to power there. We didn't want to see, or there was, even if they were democratically elected, we want to have, like, some, like, protect our, like, Dole fruit company or whatever it was. Like, that kind of influence, I think it is really kind of screwed up these countries and a lot of these countries that are sending the most migrants, like, we've done the most influence in. So I think it'd be only fair is, like, we kind of could contribute some help to them, and in the hopes maybe that would help us in return by stopping them from coming to us. If we could try and stabilize these governments in some way, instead of trying to overthrow them. But again, like, that's kind of the other side of this. Is it how much of it is foreign influence? How much of it's kind of like our involvement in this? I think maybe, like, some, like, reshifting of foreign aid from maybe, like, Middle Eastern countries towards, like, Latin American countries. I don't know how much we give to Latin American countries already, but just, like, concentrating those aids into supporting good things the government does, like housing, crimes, a reduction, stuff like that. I think that could be really helpful because, to my mind, like, that's a large reason why the people are coming. Like, if things were going well, if they weren't under, like, imminent threat from gangs, if they weren't, like this is, like, going to the border. It's not a fun trip to make, especially coming from, like, Honduras. I think there really is a reason.
I can't even imagine
for why they're
you're
doing
not
it.
and you're not getting through Mexico without the help of a Mexican gang. So
yeah,
it's not like this is such a dirty pool of money.
A lot of bad, violent people.
Yes, you're talking about there's the means and the reason. There's a push and a pull, right? We can do more about the pull than we can about the push out of the originating countries, right? So how hard is it really to if anybody really wanted to do this, how hard would it be to say, you know what, you cannot claim asylum anymore at our border. You have to claim asylum in your home country. We will no longer be accepting asylum requests at our border, especially not at official border crossings, right? We could do that, but there's a huge lobby of people who are opposed to that, and now, especially because we're coming to an election year, it's definitely not fashionable to on the left anyway. It's definitely not fashionable to run afoul of that group of people who believe that. I'm so tired of the Statue of Liberty analogy. The Mexican president used it yesterday. We are probably the most welcoming, accepting, and giving country on the planet, and we're being lectured by Mexico about about what the Statue of Liberty means. I mean, if you're taking over 1 million immigrants a year, I don't think you deserve a lecture. But so the pull, we could easily do some things about, and we're not doing that. So,
but I mean, my mind though, like the Trump administration has tried to do that, like kind of limit ability for asylum, and it's been challenged
everywhere
in the courts,
especially in the Ninth Circuit.
Like that could be legally not good. Like
What?
it's not like I don't know how much of a political thing it is as opposed to like a legal thing.
There are a number